yeah, I think that people are after seeing you at Mondegreen are probably like, of course, this guy
I think
who,
so. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, this guy improvises. Oh, this guy tries to change the show each time. I mean, a lot of that to, not act like it's coincidence. It's inspired by me finding out that Phish never and has never, I believe, done the same set list makes me that was a huge inspiration to me where I'm like, oh man, how do you pull that off in the world of giving a speech?
hello, folks. Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast, the podcast where we talk about the best concerts people have ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Herdt, and this is a very, very cool episode. Okay. I say this a lot, but truly, this was one of the coolest things that I got to do in the last year was interview my favorite comedian working right now, Rory Scovel. For those of you familiar with the name, Rory did perform at the Mondegreen Festival, the Phish Mondegreen Festival over the summer. Rory is a comedian who is dedicated to improvising on stage. This is a guy who a few years ago started really dedicated himself to fully improvising while he was doing stand up. There's a special on YouTube called Live Without Fear that was truly deeply, deeply inspiring to me as a comedian who also likes to improvise, who also likes to go out there with nothing and see what is provided to you in the moment. Rory, I believe, is truly a master at this. And we talk about seeing shows. We talk a little bit about his best shows ever. We kind of get through the best show ever really quick with Rory. And we get right into talking about comedy, talking about art, um, and the differences of performing at a music festival versus a comedy club versus an outdoor venue. I just love getting to pick Rory's brain. He has been so unbelievably helpful to me over the last year. Just getting in contact on Instagram and told him that I was a fan, told him that I liked his show, and told him that I'm dedicated to improvising myself. He has been so helpful, giving me so much advice going into things like Mondegreen, going into things like the Charleston Poorhouse show for Goose, going into Jam Cruise. Rory really was just a great sounding board, has given me some great advice. Outstanding guy. Um, if you like comedy, you should check out Rory Scovel. You should check out his special that's on Max right now. It's called Religion, Sex, and a Few Things in Between. That is an amalgamation of a lot of bits that came from his improvised shows. And there are moments of that special that you can tell are improvised on HBO Max. You're just like, what? Man, incredible. But he's got some shows coming up right now that are, again, uh fully improvised. These are called the run of shows is called Practice Makes Perfect, or Practice Makes Permanent. um and he is kind of ripping through a 2 month run right now. But if you are in the Rochester, New York area, March 13th through the 15th, he will be in Rochester. He will then be in Houston, Texas, March 20th through the 22nd, and then he is going up to Boise, Idaho, on March 29th. So if you happen to be uh, in my major listening pockets of Rochester, New York, Houston, Texas, or Boise, Idaho, please go check out Rory Scovel and go follow him on Instagram, Rory Scovel. If you see him coming through, definitely make sure you make that happen. We talk a little bit in this episode about some Brooklyn shows that he did at the end of 2024, where he had a guest, Mike Gordon, join him on bass and on stage. He also had a guest, Karina Reichman, join him on bass and on stage. When I've seen him before, he has performed with a harpist. He performed with Nick Kroll one night. I mean, the guy is doing some really cool stuff, especially in a sort of similar vein that Phish fans and Grateful Dead fans like to live in, that improvised, human, live in the moment experience. Definitely go check out Rory. There's also another episode out right now with Mel and Apple from No Simple Road. That podcast is fantastic. If you haven't listened to it yet, you're missing out. I've interviewed Aaron from No Simple Road in the first season of this podcast, but it was time we got around to a buddy episode of Mel and Apple. So go check them out. They talk about their friendship. They talk about seeing shows. Apple talks about seeing Jerry, man. It's a great episode. And if you're interested in listening to all of the episodes, every single one of these episodes is available on demand for you on the Patreon. Join for $4 a month, and you have access to every single episode in the Patreon on the season, every single one of them. And also, there are plenty of other seasons to go check out on YouTube. If you're watching here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. You can check them out on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify right now, make sure you rate us 5 stars. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a little review. All those things help with the algorithm of it all. I appreciate you guys for doing that. If you have, I will get out of the way here. That is about enough intro out of me. Please enjoy this conversation that I had with Rory Scovel. But first, here's a little bit of music from Loom. You've moved to Denver.
Moved to Denver.
You're a Denver guy now.
Denver guy. That is correct.
In the jam band Mecca.
Is that really what it's known? Is it known as that? Is that what it's called?
I feel like it kind of is like not like joked about, but not it's truthful. Like it really is a huge stop for all the jam band acts that are coming through.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like any place where Phish is planting roots to consistently end their summer run, there's definitely some fans here for sure.
Yeah, dude. Are you liking Denver?
I love it. It's awesome. It's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we can just kind of jump right into the questions of the show here. We will get to your best show ever and the honorable mention shows that might not be the best one, but you'd be remiss if you didn't bring them up. But what's the first concert you ever saw in your life?
First concert I ever went to was New Kids on the Block, Furman University. I don't remember the year, but late 80s probably. It's the information's out there somewhere, but 87, 88, 89, probably in that realm, 90. That was my sister had gone to a concert in Greenville with my stepmother. She went to see Milli Vanilli. I didn't get to go, and I was like, why do I not get to go? So the next concert that came up that my sister and my cousins and everybody was going to, because this is peak NKOTB fandom. They were all going, and I was like, well, I get to go too. And so I got to go, and it was great. I mean, I know that there's some stuff that's kind of laughable in terms of, that like right now, if you said, let's go see New Kids on the Block, I'm not gonna, you'd have to tell me it's free and we're gonna get trashed, and it's, it's not for me. It's not meant for me. Yeah. But I will say there is something to look back on and go, oh yeah, my first concert was New Kids on the Block, and I saw them in their heyday, which is at least you get to go, all right, I saw them when they were peak international fandom, when they might have even been on the way up still a little bit, because Furman University is not a, that's not a giant place, but it was the football stadium that they did the show in. So yeah, not a huge football stadium for your listeners that are picturing something massive.
The Furman University football stadium.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're not the only person who's brought up New Kids on the Block being their first show on this show. Like that is like a cultural touch point for a lot of folks of like, that was the first show their parents were like, all right, fine, you can go with your big sister or whatever.
Yeah, it could be my generation, my age. I'm 44, so it definitely. I was born in 80, so I definitely, anybody that was born around that time period probably falls into it, and probably that was one of the concerts that was clearly aimed at younger people. It wasn't for people in their 30s. That would be creepy.
I was gonna say, you could already, I mean, they don't, I don't, maybe they do this, I don't listen to the radio that much anymore, but like you can already hear the like late 80s radio ad for the New Kids on the Block, just getting kids fired the fuck up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd probably set me off right now if I heard it.
Oh my god. This Sunday. Yeah, dude. What about do you have a worst show you ever saw in your life? And you don't have to put down an
Worst
artist if you
concert?
don't. Yeah, like worst
You know, I
concert
don't,
experience.
I I don't I don't know that nothing really comes to mind. Uh, and that's probably the case because I don't know, most concerts I wanted to go to. Um, so I wouldn't find it. Even if they just weren't playing well, I would still be like, I don't know, I wanted to be at this. So,
Well,
um,
that's a great attitude.
I
I mean,
don't know that there's too many concerts I like even left, early. I think I've enjoyed most of them. If there was one I didn't enjoy, it was more than likely $10 to get in. It was probably a venue that held 150 people, and it was probably a band that, was on the way up or wasn't ever going to make it, but this is just where they play
yeah.
kind of thing. But because it's $10, you don't give a shit,
Yeah,
you
right.
know? Yeah.
You're not reviewing the show.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what a life. Never saw a show that you didn't like. There's a lot of factors. Sometimes you're just sitting next to like we went to the Dead and Co Sphere
Sure.
run
Yeah.
in May. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But the we had 4 people behind us that like I can usually tune people out at a show, but it was just the 4 drunkest people in Las Vegas like found a way to get into the Sphere. They
And
weren't there for the show. They were like,
talking the whole
wow.
time.
I mean, yeah, and like
Yeah.
grabbing us and like knew that they were annoying us, and they're like, we're sorry," and you're talking about it. And I'm
I
like, oh,
hate it. I hate the I'm annoying you, but apologizing and then still doing it.
yeah,
I can't stay. I want to turn around and go, hey, hey, here's the deal. Keep doing it. Just stop saying you're sorry because you're not.
you're not.
Like you want to keep doing it, do it. Annoy me. But just don't acknowledge that you're doing it and then never changing.
Yeah, and it's that like when the drunk person knows someone in the room doesn't like them, they're like, "Oh, come on,
I know.
no,
And they
I'm cool,
can't
I'm
stop.
fun."
They can't stop. I know. Yeah.
I'm like, "You're not fun. I'm sorry.
You're not.
You have
Yeah.
a week's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not fun. Go be fun somewhere else. Maybe
Right.
I'm not fun." Yeah, there are a lot of factors, but man, incredible life of seeing shows that just blew you away every single time. Amazing.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Not that I was blown away every time, but
yeah, right.
it's never anything that was like kind of unbearable. I just don't think I don't know. Yeah, nothing comes to mind.
You don't seem like a guy. I don't know if you don't seem like a guy that's been kicked out of a show ever for anything.
No.
You seem like
I
you're good in the venue.
I'm even keeled. I get it. I know. I know social etiquette in places.
Yeah,
I've certainly been trashed. I've certainly been annoying as fuck, Anybody drinking in high school and college has to learn there is too far.
yeah,
You have to learn it.
sure.
You have to learn, oh, you can get so drunk you don't remember who you are or what you were doing.
Yeah,
But yeah, nothing too insane.
nothing that ruined the night. That's good. That's
Yeah.
you're a good concert buddy for that. Then. Well, it's very difficult to pick like a best show ever. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen a ton of shows in your day. But what do you have any like shows that you would be remiss not to bring up like alongside the best show ever?
Yeah, my favorite band is Tool, and one of the best
Sick.
times I saw them was like I have to go back and look. 2013, 2014, 2015, one of those years, uh, pre my daughter's birth in Fresno, California, a city I do not like at all. But Failure was opening for them. That would actually
Yeah.
that'd be a huge hint as to what year that run was. But yeah, Failure was opening for them. Huge Failure fan since high school. I love Fantastic Planet. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Failure is opening for my favorite band. And I got to say, of all the times I had seen them up to that point, they were just notably so tight. You could just tell they were dialed in for whatever reason, musically, I don't know why that happens. I don't know if it's overall age. I don't know if it's, hey, yeah, usually when we hit the 11th show of the run, we're fully dialed into the set list. It could have been those reasons, but I just remember my wife and I going up and hating Fresno and driving back. Like, we didn't even get a hotel or anything, but I just remember being like, fuck, that was a great show. And I just love that I got to see Failure. And I also really liked the venue. The venue was like an old school looking arena, and it just had cool it was a space that has just had really cool character. I think there's people who maybe because they like cinematography, I don't know. I grew up being into film, wanting to be a filmmaker, and so this arena was just one of those spaces you walk into and you're just like, oh man, this is like a beautifully unique character to an arena. So many arenas look identical
Yeah.
and sterile and whatever. Maybe they just have to. But this one, you could tell, was a little outdated, and so it just looked a little different, and also not a huge venue for Tool. So that kind of made it a cool kind of show too. Also, I would throw in the first time I saw them was absolutely amazing at Grady Cole Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't know what I was getting into. I was a new Tool fan. I didn't know what they looked like. I had no idea how metal, goth, dark the audience would be.
Yeah.
I just never factored any of that in. I was too new to, a non-mainstream band, and I went with friends, and I was just wanted to go because they were going. And so, yeah, I went and just mesmerized immediately. And it was super small, such a super small venue. So cool to see them in the 90s, right after Anima had come out. It was a really cool time to see them. And that's what planted them in my mind, is like, oh, this is special. And I'm definitely drawn to this for a lot of reasons. I also, side note, saw Coldplay in the same venue,
Oh shit.
and they blew me away immediately. This is
Wow.
before massive fame, but
Yeah.
definitely on the rise. The fact that I saw them in this tiny venue was crazy, because their light show and video show was still pretty impressive. It was really cool. Um, and it was awesome watching Chris Martin get super into his songs, in a way back then where it wasn't like he's famous and everyone obsesses over him like now. He could do anything and everyone thinks it looks cool. This is
Right.
a time when he kind of looked a little ridiculous. But when I see a lead singer or members of a band clearly loving their product and they don't give a fuck if I like it, it makes me like it a little bit more. I like
Oh
seeing
yeah.
artists fully committed backing their own art. I think it kind of makes it step away from, I hope you guys think this is cool, and it makes it go more to, I do think this is cool and I like it.
Yeah, there's like less and less of that. It's really hard to get that through
Yeah.
nowadays. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you seeing Coldplay in a small room, you can't do that anymore. It's like a stadium or nothing. You see them in a
That'll never happen again. And so it was kind of cool. This is like 2001, 2002, I think.
yeah.
2002, I think. Maybe 2003, but yeah, Rush of Blood to the Head was out, and they were, Clocks was blowing them up, and they were just, that whole album had blown them up, and even more so than their previous one. Yeah, and then, kind of on the topic of, our connection specifically in the jam band world, I'll never forget the first time I saw Phish, because it was something I walked into that I didn't know I was walking into. And also, I didn't know if I even gave a fuck about jam bands. I don't know if I understood it. I think, like most people, I thought all four of them didn't know what was going on at the same time. You
Yeah,
know what I
right.
mean? It's before you really
Yeah.
discover that, yeah, sometimes they all four don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
but there's a beauty in that and how they survive it and the choices they make in those moments. I think that is the acquired taste, that is the 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 respect for the band. Not that you have
Yeah.
to grow to love them, but when you start to really go, oh, I respect them, it's like Yeah, it's probably because you realize they are pulling off something that's very difficult, and they do it all the time. But
Yeah.
that was at Lakewood. It's called something else now, but Lakewood Amphitheater in Atlanta, Georgia. I think on my birthday,
Nice.
1998. Yeah,
Damn.
1998, August 6th, I think, 1998.
I mean, both of the Tool and the Phish experiences are, yeah, huge worlds to kind of just like step into, having no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah,
Um,
the moment we pulled into the parking lot, a guy, like a Hare Krishna guy, was already trying to like. He gave us books, and we were so baked.
yeah,
And also, that parking lot was like a dirt parking lot, so I didn't realize that the fandom of Phish would kind of be a little bit, and this is also 1998, would be a little bit like time travel. I didn't know
yeah,
that it would be so like, and I don't mean this in a way that I don't like it. I actually really love it. But it was like more cliche hippie looking,
yeah,
where it was like people in 1998 who really still wanted to look like it was 1968.
yeah. The
And
costume.
so, yeah, the sort of the costume. And I really was like, oh fuck, I actually really love this. I'm wearing a t-shirt and pants and flip-flops. So I fit in perfectly
Yeah,
with
right.
every era of a Phish fan.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I kind of loved it. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect that it was gonna be this sort of time travel moment. This is really cool. And then going in and being around the energy of people who really love that band is also something you can't understand until you're standing in it, to go, oh my God, even if I hate this band, the crowd's affection for this band makes you love it. I went and saw Taylor Swift. I think her music is really good. I've now listened to a lot of it because my daughter. I'm not some massive Taylor Swift fan, but being at a show surrounded by a football stadium of people who worship her, you do go, oh, well, this definitely makes it, the energy I'm currently feeling makes it so much more fun. Whether I like this or not, I do like the fact that everyone here is obsessed with it.
yeah. It does. It, it would take like a supreme asshole to be like, this fucking sucks, with like a full stadium of people like
Also, like
crying.
you're aware, like you're stating a fact, but you
Yeah.
don't know that you're stating an opinion, which is maybe most Americans now, at
It's
least
so
70 plus million.
it's every time we open our mouths. Yeah, but I fucking yeah, like you'd have to be a real like, you have to try to not like that, or like really, I mean, I remember this, it was a similar effect, but like a different time, I guess. It was like, my buddy in high school had just gotten broken up with, and he had tickets for him and his girlfriend to go see John Mayer, at
Okay.
the time. It's
Yep.
like '08, Heartbreak Warfare, John Mayer, and he's like, "Dude, you're gonna come with me. I'm not giving her the tickets, and we're going." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I'm like not listening to a lot of John Mayer, and yeah, the I had been to a bunch of punk shows at that time. I had seen like some pretty big stadium shows. I've heard a loud crowd, but the crowd when he took the stage was just like a tsunami of yelling and crying and cheering, and
Yeah.
yeah, you like, it got you into it immediately. I think
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe for like a brief millisecond you're like, "All right." And
I know.
then after that and
Yeah.
then after that you're
You
like,
kind of
"Wow."
do have to. You kind of do have to give in. Um, I've seen a lot of Dave Matthews Band growing up in the Southeast. That was a little bit of a religion.
Yeah.
Also, this is around the time of Crash being released. So we're talking peak DMB religion.
Massive DMB crowds,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I saw a bunch of Dave shows, and they were great. It was really cool that he was uh I think that band is a lot of fun. I know they can be a punchline, but and I get it. I get it when you don't like a band. It's fun to make fun of it, and I do it too. I'm just not like I'm some innocent bystander, but yeah, I went and saw them a couple years ago at the Hollywood Bowl in
Oh, yeah.
LA, and it was great. Fish at the Hollywood Bowl was great.
Man, really great run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, and like Dave, yeah, I also saw a handful of Dave shows in my early 20s. And yeah, it's easy to make fun of white guy stuff. That's one of the easiest white guy things to make fun of is
Yeah.
going to a Dave Matthews Band show for sure.
Yeah.
But that is also like where I got a lot of like my real concert sea legs. Like I saw like
Same. Yeah. That's a good way
yeah.
to put it. Yeah. Yeah. Same. That really was like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what the fandom's like. This is what this is what going to a concert is. And it was just really cool. It was cool. And to see that they still, they still got it. They still bring the same energy in a very professional way. They're more seasoned now. It's kind of cool.
He's totally still that guy. He's totally still
A
like
million
whiskey
percent.
dancing guy, you
He
know.
is 1,000,000% still that dude.
Whiskey shuffle dude. Yeah, he's still that guy pulling it off. Yeah, the shows are still great. I have not seen him recently, but I would. I would.
I
I would go
recommend
see
it. My buddy and I we had talked about it. Adam Caden Holland, another comedian, we had talked about growing up loving Dave and still loving Dave and the ridicule that sometimes goes with it. But there's still it's not like it's an easy ticket to get. It's still very in demand for people that are like, oh yeah, I would go see that. I still love it. Yeah, we were kind of just talking about going for the nostalgic, like, let's go to the Hollywood Bowl, let's go see Dave, we'll have some beers, it'll be fun. And you know they didn't really hit a massive song till like the fourth song, but they were building to it. And by the time they were at the fourth song, I turned around to look at everybody in the Hollywood Bowl, and I was like, oh, we are all in this right now. No one is sitting
Yeah.
down. No one is like, I don't fucking, oh, what's this, two-step? I've never liked two-step. It's like, that person is not at this concert,
Yeah. Yeah, I always say that. I think that a lot of the, like, music online community, focuses a lot on, like, people who, make fun of, yeah, like, Dave Matthews Band or make fun of, like, the Phish experience or, like, are
Yeah.
really critical about it or whatever, but that guy is never at the show,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm never sitting next to a guy, like, sitting down at a Phish show, like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I don't do foam."
It's also
Sorry.
yeah. It's also bands that have survived too.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about your Tool and still being great. There's something to be said about Phish, still feeling like they're just as good as when you first went, and like Pearl Jam even. I'm not a big Pearl Jam guy, and it's not like I go out and rush to the latest album, but if you said we were going to Pearl Jam tonight, I would gladly go. It's still a band that has survived and made it work since the 90s. And it isn't a band that, oh, let's do the reunion thing. Nothing against your Gwen Stefani's, your No Doubts, but it isn't
Sure.
like they stayed fully in it. Like, I'm not talking
No.
about the reunion bands. I mean bands that literally like, nah, we've still been trucking, to that point. The band Chicago, like,
Yeah.
of course they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The fact that that is still a fucking band is insanity.
Insane for like decades over decades and kinda coming back and then going away
Yeah,
again and kinda coming
yeah.
back,
And we're
like
not talking about like the Stones still being around. You're like, oh, that's crazy because of their age.
yeah,
Chicago was never like
the
the
Rolling
Rolling
Stones.
Stones massive. So the fact that they're
Yeah,
like, yeah, we never hit that level, but yet we're still grinding away while being, just maybe slightly younger than those guys, is
yeah, dude.
it's really fucking impressive. I think it goes to show that it isn't like, I think a lot of people's interpretation is the fame of it, and it just isn't. Yeah, everybody wants the fame, but they only want the fame because that means they succeeded financially, and they also succeeded in a way where they can go, oh man, people were really drawn to the thing that I created.
Yeah,
It isn't. I think a lot of those people, it isn't a wanting to get drawn to the fame because your ego needs the recognition. I think there's a I think there's really just people going, oh man, I think it's really cool you jam to the same fucking thing that I jam to. I gotta say, when I like perform, when I'm spotted at a Phish show or even doing Mondegreen, and
yeah,
people being like, holy shit, Rory's a Phish fan. I'm not saying that's like said every second, but that I read that comment, or it's said to me in
it
person, like,
yeah,
holy shit, you're a Phish fan. And I'm always like, oh man, I always thought from day one I kind of read as a Phish fan. I kind of feel like I'd be your least surprising Phish fan, just given the nature of my jokes and the nature of how I perform and all this. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I would like Phish fans are talking about Phish all the time.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah, yeah.
fucking, we're
It's
so
a fun topic. It's endless, you know?
the well is deep. But yeah, I think that people are after seeing you at Mondegreen are probably like, of course, this guy
I think
who
so. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, this guy improvises. Oh, this guy tries to change the show each time. I mean, a lot of that to, not act like it's coincidence. It's inspired by me finding out that Fish never and has never, I believe, done the same set list makes me that was a huge inspiration to me where I'm like, oh man, how do you pull that off in the world of giving a speech?
Yeah.
How is it possible to do it? And it's not like that's been my it's not like I've done that, but I definitely try to make it different as often as possible all the time. Even if I've got the whole hour written out, I still try to I don't want it to feel the same or sound the same. And if someone sees it twice, I want them to really feel like, man, I did hear, you know, a lot of the same stuff, but it didn't feel like the same like show.
Yeah, I mean, actually seeing you at Mondegreen was the first time I had ever seen um you do a joke that I'd seen you do before.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
And I was there with my brother who yeah, he was like, "Wow, that feel so much different than when we saw him at the Elysian?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, very different room, very different vibe for the day." I'm sure like, walking into that sort of like a festival set, you kinda don't know what to expect. Do you feel I mean, there's so many rooms at this point in your career, you probably know what to expect walking in. You know who the guy is at the
Yeah.
door,
I think
all this
I've
stuff.
seen the gauntlet minus arenas or stadiums, which is in the cards for me if I'm opening for someone at this point. And maybe and maybe that's my only entry ever into it. But yeah, I've seen the gauntlet. I've seen the some of the worst small, some of the worst bigs, everything in between, good and bad and great, you know.
Do you feel like is it a little easier to like when you're in a space or a situation kind of like Mondegreen, where it's a little unexpected, you don't exactly know what's about to happen for these day
Yeah,
sets, the afternoon sets. Do you feel like you have to lean on the material a little more, or do you feel like you're able to improvise even more?
it's kind of there's no specific answer. The reason there's no specific answer is because, if I was going up as a band, hey, the venue's the venue, but I just kind of play and even people that are watching and enjoying, they might be distracted socially, but they're here. Just the way that we take in music, um, while I think any music fan realizes it's a better experience to commit your full attention to it. And I think that's where a little bit of drugs comes in. It's not always, hey, I want it to be wild. There's some of us that like being a little fucked up specifically because it makes me forget that Cam and I are standing next to each other and we were just talking about a fucking, whatever, a movie. But
Yeah.
because I'm a little fucked up at the end of a song, you and I might make eye contact and be like, oh, fuck, like that was wow.
Right.
And the only reason we said wow is because we didn't keep talking about the movie and just let the music be in the background. We really watched the solos. We really watched the movement. We really, we felt it.
Yeah, man.
Stand up is so different because I can't bring you to the punchline successfully if I don't have your attention. And when you walk into something like Mondegreen, and this is true at most outdoor venues, this is true at most events where stand up is not like the focus. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, Mondegreen, there's a lot of people that popped their head into that tent who were like, what the fuck is this? And like, they might have popped in and they don't know my vibe. They don't know what I do. They heard something wildly out of context and they were like, this is so stupid. Fuck this dude, and left. However, that exact same person, if they came to a show, 100 seats in a room, lights go down, I walk out, 100 of us are here and we're paying attention, that same reaction of fuck this dude, I hate this, they could leave that show and go, that was my favorite show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of having their attention. So when you step out onto a stage at something like Mondegreen, there's, it isn't like you're not necessarily excited in the same way, because you have to start at getting everyone's attention and trying to get a majority of the room in the show. Like, come in here with me.
Yeah.
And they aren't immediately there because of the setting, because of Phish is going to be on. Oh my God, if I walk outside of this tent, I'm at a circus, and a
Yeah.
band I'm going to see for 4
Yeah.
nights is going to go on in 1 hour or something. And there's elements of mental distraction. And so to keep people entertained and pull them in through spoken word, it sometimes requires you to go, all right, well, the joke that Cam heard in LA, I can't get into it the same way because I don't have the entire right side even acknowledging that I'm up here. And
Yeah.
so you have to like kind of approach it differently. And that kind of work and that kind of challenge can be fun. I'll tell you what's way more fun is just walking out, everyone already knowing who you are, and you getting to just start, and they're there to see it. And I got to say, the surprise at Mondegreen was that, I think we did 5 shows. And I would say 3 of them were effortlessly fun because the crowd was like, yeah, dude, we're here. We've heard of you, or we know exactly who you are. And
Yeah.
so we're in. And so that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, man. And I'm personally interested in hearing about that because that's a lot of the stuff that I end up getting booked for now, where it's this weird mix of, I before all the Phish video stuff that
Yeah.
people recognize me for now, I don't ever go out to a room of people who know who I am. I'm always just like, let's get them at some point in the first 30 seconds here.
Yeah. And
You
so it's
know?
a different level of starting. You have to start differently, for
Yeah.
better or worse. Sometimes it doesn't matter that they know you. They might still be a bad crowd. And sometimes
Yeah.
the fact that they've never heard of you, you might go, that was the best show I've ever fucking done. That was awesome. There's no
Exactly.
there's no guarantees ever I think in any live art, in any medium. There's just no guarantees.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool that
Yeah.
people know who I am when I come out now, or that people go, Cam Herdt, and people are like, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
These things that I'm going out for are like a pre or post party for a jam band concert where everyone's like either about to take mushrooms or still on fucking a lot of
Yeah. They're
mushrooms,
in deep. Yeah.
and I'm just like barking at them. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, you know what? Here's music,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
everyone's like, thank God.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a
Those settings are tough. I was just talking with Uh, I was actually just, this isn't even name dropping. It's just kind of fun that the other day in Denver, I was out having drinks with Adam Caden Holland, and in town was Kumail and Kurt Braunohler.
sick.
And we all were getting drinks, and we were chatting about shows. And I was just mentioning that, I've played some dispensaries, and while on paper you think this is going to be so fun, people are high, which makes people fucking giggle and laugh. However, when you go play a dispensary and it's in a room, no matter the size of the room and how many people, it doesn't mean everyone is necessarily together, because the high experience kind of individualizes them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and in stand up, I need you all. I need you all together. I want you together, and so you might play to your point about people being on mushrooms and stuff, where you go, oh, this will be fun. I'm gonna be trippy, and I'm a weird guy, and I also do those things, and I'm into the same
Yeah.
shit. Like, I feel that, but then the moment you get on stage, you're like,
Uh,
oh, everyone
oh,
is lost, and there are no jokes that are going to bring them together. No matter if I hit you with my fucking A game
hey,
arsenal, you are not getting, you can't connect. We can't connect together.
yeah, I
Yeah.
could nail it too. I could be
Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah,
and that's the other thing. Like I'm used to Chicago and out here I was doing like improv theaters or comedy clubs where they sit people close and they face them towards the stage and everyone's here for the show and we put the lights down and
yeah,
like at a
yeah,
bar I just kind of like walk up, I'm like, "Hey!"
yeah. And also, like, the alcohol element. Adam mentioned this, that he was like, yeah, that's why drinkers are a little bit more fun. And you're like, yeah, there's an element to
Yeah.
it being a little bit more fun in a way, because the idea of drinking is already, there's a built-in communal element to that, where
Yeah.
like getting high, you might have a table of 6 people at a dispensary. They're all fucking high, but they all just socially jam together anyways. And they're like, fuck yeah, dude, this was great. We knew how to plug in to the show.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
similar to a table that's had the right amount of drinks. Obviously there's too far and then it's fucked. But, if I'm at a show and I've had a couple drinks, I'm like, I'm a little loose. I'm laughing at stuff that's, someone now doing something so stupid. But you know what? I just fucking, the vibe is good and it's fun that we're all here. And I think
Yeah. I'm thinking
certain
about it a
level
little
of
less.
responsible drinking makes everyone feel a little more like, come on, get in here.
Yeah.
Whereas
You gotta
pot is like, I don't want to go in there. I'm fucking,
that yes.
I'm having a
It is.
moment.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, pot is a little more selfish. A little more
Yeah.
selfish of an
My brain
experience.
is
But
making me go through therapy and I can't. And drinking is never going to. Drinking's like, dude, you're awesome. And you're like, okay, cool.
yeah, drink's like, stop thinking about it, dude.
You stop thinking about it. You're a badass. You're like, you're right, brain. Let's go in.
I'm
Let's do
so
this.
fucking badass. I'm actually as good as this comedian. Hey!
Yeah. That's the too far. That's the one drink too far. I should be up there.
Actually, hey!
Yeah.
Man, did we get to your best show ever? Did we say or did you hit some
My
honorable
personal
mention?
stand-up best show or like just the concerts? I mean,
Just
I guess concert wise, you know what? I do have it. And this is kind of a strange answer. But
love it.
when Roger Waters was touring The Wall,
Yeah.
I want to say this is 2011. I was about to move in late 2010. I moved to LA, staying on my wife and I moved out here and we were just sleeping on a floor at a friend's apartment. And a buddy of mine had told me he was going to see Roger Waters' The Wall in Atlanta, my buddy Christian. And so for whatever reason, sitting at that apartment, I was just like, I looked and I was like, oh, what kind of concerts? And I was like, oh, I'm into Pink Floyd. I really didn't even know the album The Wall. And I didn't know a ton about Pink Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon, while being at the time one of my favorite albums, still to this day, and transformative for me in who I became when I first started listening to it and really listening to it. I still didn't know a lot about Pink Floyd. And so I was like, oh yeah, let's go see The Wall. And so my wife and I went with John Doerr and Lynn Shawcroft, and we ate some pot cookies. I did that thing of eating too much because it just wasn't kicking in, and I just kept going at it.
Yeah.
And the concert started, and I was fucking into it. And then, like the third song or fourth song, my heart is racing. And I also didn't know that I was going to be dealing with so much depth internally based on not only the lyrics and the music, but also visually. It's so in your face where he's coming from. And I was like, oh man, this is really powerful. I know it is. And then I had to I asked my wife, I was like, can you just feel my chest? And, she was trying to calm me down, but she was like, your heart is racing really fast. So that didn't help that she was like, I can confirm the thing you're afraid of is actually happening. It's not in
It's
your
really
head.
happening for
So
real.
I was like, I need some sugar. I'm going to go. I went and I sat in the corridor, got a Coke, the biggest Coke they would sell me,
Yeah.
sat on a couch that just happened to be in that vestibule. And everybody walking by looked at me like I was the most cliche, drugged out guy at a Pink Floyd show who couldn't handle Pink Floyd. And I kept popping in. I kept walking into the corridor or whatever that goes into the arena, and would watch a little bit, come back out. And that was kind of the ride I was on. And I got to say, I got home that night fully aware that I had just shown up for a class and I was too fucked up to fully take it in. Bought my wife and I tickets to go 1 week later down in Anaheim at the Honda Center.
Wow.
And this time I was stone sober to sit and watch the whole thing because I was like, every band should have to watch this show. It's just fucking beautiful. It's beautifully done. And the fact that it was thematically so much about him building a wall personally, it was beautiful how he had transformed that into now people building walls and the damage that does. And yeah, just really, it was probably the most politically charged thing I'd ever seen in entertainment. And I went 2 more times after that. I saw that show a total of 4 times,
Yeah,
and it just
man.
was fucking incredible. It was unreal.
Yeah, I mean, we have talked about that show on this podcast. Musicians and fans alike have talked about how they are. Yeah, we're that is like uh is the best show ever for them. They'd be weird if they brought up anything else because it's such a unbelievable production. And yeah, same thing. I mean, like my dad was a huge Pink Floyd guy, so we went and saw that at the United Center, and it just yeah,
Yeah,
fucking
fuck yeah.
just blew me away, man. Like, and my dad saw the original 80s Wall back in the 80s, and he had the VHS, and we would watch the VHS when we were kids. I mean, I would be like, man, like no one pulls off something like this. And
Right.
it's, all these years later, I wonder what, and that just took it to a whole another level. And yeah, like in your face politically, and like with the message too, is it's a big piece of pie. It's
Yeah.
very rich.
Lot
And
to
so
absorb religiously, politically, capitalism. It's just like, man,
yeah.
all right. Goodbye Blue Sky, I think, is when I was like, okay, I gotta step out because there's a lot to process here.
Okay. Also, yeah, I mean, we've all been the guy on the couch with the Coke, and
Yeah.
like when you're in that moment and people are walking by, you just want to be like, no, no,
I
not
know. I
me.
just I think the
It's
first person that kind of made a joke and laughed at me, the 2 guys laughing at me, I like wanted to say something back, but then I was like, I have to stay focused because I think I'm gonna die.
and they're right, and they're fucking right to be
Like
bullying
I
their
want to
friends.
defend myself, but at the same time, my heart might explode. So I actually need to stay focused.
Joke's on you, buddy. I might die tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then
so
how are you gonna feel when you find out a guy you don't care about is dead?
yeah, and you made fun of him, asshole, at Pink Floyd. Hey, listen, it's okay. Sometimes you got to, and it sounds like you tried to brave it and go back in. And yeah, no,
I kept popping in a few times. I saw the ending and I was just like, man, I don't know that I've ever given this album any attention other than like, the Another Brick in the Wall part 2. Like, the
yeah,
the
right.
the obvious fucking songs that come out of it. But yeah, to go back and really start to pay attention to it and really understand the story and really listen to the lyrics and really take note of like, you know, I don't know, the fact that Pink Floyd like makes Dark Side of the Moon and then also makes The Wall and also makes Animals, and you're like,
Animals, yeah,
like the creativity and like the fact that this band never steps into, it seems, any recording session going, and just remember guys, this is our brand, but literally
yeah,
going, hey guys, just remember being good at singing and writing songs is our brand, and they can
yeah,
sound like anything, they just need to be fucking good. And like, you go, yeah, there's no reason why, I don't know, when people put out concept albums now, it's like, I just don't really think that's a concept album to me. You listen to Dark Side of the Moon, you're like, tell me at which point any of these songs can become a radio hit, because the first 4 have 3 minutes of instrumental. What radio station is gonna, who is like, okay, great, we'll play that.
yeah. And just as a people, we've been like, that is sonically perfect. That
It's
works
still, yeah.
for us.
I
Yeah,
remember like
and
there was the making of the Dark Side, and David Gilmour was like, and then we were done and we all sat down as a band and listened to the album start to finish, and we were all just looking at each other like, we have made something really special. And I'm like, God, how good would that feel to like
holy,
not only go, hey guys, we made a good album, because there's so much insecurity as artists, but
oh
to look at
yeah,
each other and go, oh, we didn't just make a good album, we made something special. Like, this could live forever. And it seems like it's going to.
yeah. Do you think they were like, we just made Dark Side?
And also that album cover, that title,
It's just
there's no misstep. There's no
yeah,
misstep through the whole thing. To me, um, there's some perfect albums just based on, as a fan of certain album. I love that we can all have different opinions on what we think is a perfect album, and someone will say one and you'll be like, oh, I don't even like that band, let alone that album.
yeah,
But
right.
yeah, Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall for me are just like perfect albums, the way Back to the Future and Boogie Nights and that are perfect movies. I'm like, there's just
Yeah.
there isn't a lull. There isn't a thing that's just there to be there. There isn't, um, I think this is what it is. There's nothing in there where the band was like, guys, we need 4 more songs. What do we got? Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Which is
Hook people in
so
on side
a
2.
part of album making, even with great bands that are just like,
Yeah.
yeah, we got to have 12 songs and we've only got 7 badass songs. Does anyone have 5 pieces of shit that we can just put on there? I think that's the difference. The Dark Side of the Moon is like, yeah, there's no pieces of shit. And also there's some songs that are just instrumental. And sometimes it's just weird fucking sound effects of someone running through a goddamn airport. Yet, who gives a fuck?
And you've connected with that very deeply on your couch in your
Yeah,
house.
exactly. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, it really is perfect, and another thing I've talked about on this podcast a bunch is, I went and saw David Gilmour with my dad this year with my family.
Oh, nice.
It was amazing. It was at the Hollywood Bowl, just
Yeah.
unbelievable, and
Fucking
he's
cool.
got this new album out, and, like, when you go see an artist who is, not like we were talking about, New Kids on the Block being in their prime, when you see
Yeah.
an artist, past their prime or, in a different era of their life, you don't always want to hear the new stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like every new song that he put out that night, at the beginning of it, I'd be like, well, I don't know what this is. We'll see what it is. And by the end of it, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I
Yeah.
read about the album a ton afterwards, and he said that he's like, there are parts of this album and there's things that I made in this album that I'm more proud of than Dark Side
Wow.
of the
Holy
Moon.
shit. That's a big
And,
statement.
and the interviewer said exactly that. And he's like, wow, I mean, how could you ever possibly put anything above that sort of a masterpiece? He's like, I don't know, man. That was a long time ago. I don't remember anything
Yeah.
from that.
I'm typing this in to grab the album now.
Yeah, Luck and Strange is the name of the album.
Yeah, I heard that single and I really liked it. But I didn't realize the full album was out. So yeah, I'm grabbing it now while I'm thinking about it.
So great, man. And he's just like, I know when I really, really like something. And I know that when we got done with Dark Side, I don't remember all of that, but I remember I really, really liked some of it,
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
and this is the same as that, and
Yeah. And also some
um
of those solos that he wrote for Dark Side, you're like, you have to be like a crazy abstract artist to even come up with just some of those, just that one note right there. Like other people would go, that doesn't make any sense. It's not like, but yet when
yeah.
he does it, you're like, yeah, your creativity and rhythm is just, I mean, that's why he's David Gilmour. You're like, you had a talent that showed other people songwriting doesn't have to be, so constructed, so typically in that, that's Roger Waters' power too. Like, you know, songs don't have to, hey, maybe 10 seconds of something at the beginning, but then let's get going with the verses. I love that they
Yeah.
were like, fuck that.
Right. Yeah. A lot of fuck that. And there's a lot of confidence out of those two guys. And I think that is like a supreme, like, um, there's so much of David Gilmour's style that you can tell people try to emulate. Like, Trey does a bunch of David Gilmour type things where he was like, I would like to pull off a David Gilmour type palm mute or bend here or something. But when you see
Yeah.
him do it, it's like, yeah, this is a guy who is so unbelievably confident that he made, each individual note his. I felt like when I was watching that
Yeah.
show with David Gilmour, and like the Pink Floyd show itself is like we were talking about jam bands and we were talking about like the psychedelic nature of it. Like Pink Floyd is like the most psychedelic show you could possibly see, but it is not the open and free jamming of the Grateful Dead. It's like everything is kind of perfect, like in
Exactly.
its
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
All the notes are like kind of very confidently played and
Yeah.
no noodling. There's no fucking room
Yeah.
for.
Which I like. I mean, you don't want everybody noodling.
Yeah, right. Hey,
Yeah.
there's noodlers,
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
there's
that's the tool. The tool way is like, these are the
yeah,
songs, this is the set list, this is the show. And you're like, yeah, I'm not here for Phish. I'm here for Tool.
and Tool it requires you need to nail Tool.
Yeah.
That is math rock. You need to fucking
Yeah.
you
Things
can't.
gotta
There's
go
no
where they're supposed to go.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah, um, man, and we could make those comparisons to comedy all day long if we wanted to. But
It's true.
this has been really great, man. Thanks so much for doing the show.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's fun to it feels like therapy, music therapy to just chat about these things. So I love it.
Yeah, and I'll bill you, and we'll do all that. And
Perfect.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug coming up? That any shows you got coming up?
Yeah, depending on when this comes out, specifically, I'm going to be doing 10 improvised nights of stand up in Brooklyn at Union Hall, January 8th to 18th. 5 shows, one night off on the 13th, and then 5 more shows. Going to get a different musician to join me
Cool.
each time. Mike Gordon might be popping back out. We did Burlington together, so he might do another one if he can make it work. But
Sick.
yeah, people like Karina Reichman, she's coming out
Oh yeah.
to do one, which will be great. And yeah, it'll be cool. So if you're in that area and tickets are still available, please come on down. I'll probably lose my mind doing 10 hours of improvised stand-up. I don't know what's going to happen. I booked it as an experiment. I booked it as an exercise in artistic growth. I really want to know what will happen. And unfortunately, or fortunately, stand-ups, as you know, we don't have a laboratory to where we can go try to grow and change. There is no sitting down with our guitars and just practicing a lot to become really good. We have to get up in front of people in the moment and succeed and fail in real time. And it's how we deal with that. That is the whole shebang. But outside of that, I'm starting to put dates together in 2025. So please go to roryscovel.com if you want to see me live. And finally, I'm in the movie You're Cordially Invited, which will be out at the end of this month, January 30th or something, I believe, on Amazon. It's Reese Witherspoon, Will Ferrell, and I've seen the movie, and I think it's really funny, and I think a lot of people are going to like it. So throw it on and spread the word if you liked it.
Hell yeah, man. And guys, if you fuck, I mean, I will do this in the
Oh,
outro, but
one other note. Pen Pals is my podcast with Daniel Van Kirk. It's Patreon
oh, you
only,
got
but
it.
if that's the kind of thing you're into, it's $5 a month. You can do all the research to find it, but if you're so inclined to look into it because you liked what you heard of me chatting here, it's called Pen Pals with Rory Scovel and Daniel Van Kirk. So yeah, that's it.
If you have listened to this whole podcast, you got to listen to Pen Pals. I mean, come on. It's an hour of me and Rory. You got to listen to. But yeah, man, I truly another plug for you. Your special where you improvised at the shows in Georgia, Live Without Fear, just deeply, deeply inspirational to me as a comedian.
Oh, nice.
Kind of breaking through from like I did a lot of improv in Chicago, and then kind of moved to LA and making that stand up transition is tough.
Yeah,
And
it is. Thanks for saying that. I hope it helped. I also started improv and stand up at the same time, and so to me, it's not a hybrid. To me, they're just both comedy, and they can both exist together. But I don't know that there's a ton of comics like yourself and myself. I mean, there are, but I don't know that there's a lot who really do want to try to merge the two into something. And I wouldn't be surprised if you found all the people that enjoy doing that and they weren't, fish heads to some degree.
or I was gonna say they at least have a shirt with a Steely
Yeah.
on it in their
Or they're
closet
like, I'm
somewhere.
not Fish, I'm more Grateful Dead. You're like, okay, but in the
Okay,
context of where you're
whatever,
coming out
man.
from as a comedian, same thing. So yeah.
Cool. You like Widespread Panic, whatever, dude.
Yeah,
Same.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that was my talk with Rory Scovel. This guy, like I just said, go see him, man. Just a fantastic comedian, a guy who, like I said, is dedicated to improv. Something that I just respect the hell out of him for, and I think that he is doing an incredible job of. Um, there's a scene from that special that I've mentioned a couple times in this episode, "Live Without Fear," that if you are a comedy fan, that is a special that is missed on on some people, I would say. It's a YouTube special. Please go check this out. There's a moment where he is backstage before his first fully improvised show where he is so nervous. He is so worried about it going well. And he's saying to himself, just have fun. Just have fun. Just be fun. these are the words that I tell myself before I go and perform for you all at these events. Just be fun. Rory's words ring in my ear often. He is an outstanding comedian, an outstanding guy. I hope you guys get a chance to see him. If you enjoyed this episode, wherever you're listening or watching, please give us a subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars on Spotify if you're listening there. If you're on Apple Podcasts and you'd like to say a nice word, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. All of those things help out getting the word out about Best Show Ever, and so more people can hear this awesome conversation with Rory Scovel. There's another episode out right now, guys, with Mel and Apple from No Simple Road. That is a fantastic episode where we talk about the healing power of music and two buddies just being friends. Please go check those out, guys. Go check out all the other episodes on all of the other places you can watch them. If you love them so much, become a member of the Patreon. But until next time, guys, have a great show.